Glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pachaline Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Good morning, everyone. We are studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse 43. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, I'll chant the verse, Sanskrit. Let's just make sure. Okay. 2943. Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarishi pariparacha bhavanyan manuprityati. Tushtang nishamapitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarish pariparacha bhavanyan manuprichati. Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarish paripapracha bhavanyan manuprichati. Hare Krishna. Any devotees like to chant here?
Tushtam nishamaya pitaram lokanam parikamaham devati paripurachaya bhavanya manuprichati.
Hare Krishna. Any devotees online?
Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarshi papracha bhavanyan manuprichita.
Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarishi pariprapacha bhavanyan manuprichati.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarshi paripracha bhavaniyan manuprichati. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Tushtam nishamya pitaram lokanam prapitamaham devarshi paripracha bhavanyan manuprichati.
Hare Krishna. Tushtam nishayama pitaram lokanam prapritamaham devushi paripapricha bhavanyam manu prichati.
And word for word. Tushtam, satisfied. Nishamya, after seeing. Pitaram, the father. Lokanam, of the whole universe. Prapitamaham, the great grandfather. Devarish, the great sage Narada. Paripapracha, inquired. Bhavan, yourself. Yat, as. It is. Ma, from me. Anuprichti, inquiring. Translation. The great sage Narada also inquired in detail from his father, Brahma, the great grandfather of all the universe, after seeing him well satisfied. Purport. The process of understanding spiritual or transcendental knowledge from the realized person is not exactly like asking an ordinary question from the schoolmaster. The schoolmasters in modern days are paid agents for giving some information. But the spiritual master is not a paid agent, nor can he impart instruction without being authorized. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.3, the process of understanding transcendental knowledge is directed as follows. Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashenena sevaya upadekshanti te janam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Arjuna was advised to receive transcendental knowledge from the realized person by surrender, questions, and service. Receiving transcendental knowledge is not like exchanging dollars. Such knowledge has to be received by service to the spiritual master. As Brahmaji received the knowledge directly from the Lord by satisfying him fully, similarly, one has to receive the transcendental knowledge from the spiritual master by satisfying him. The spiritual master's satisfaction is the means of assimilating transcendental knowledge. One cannot understand transcendental knowledge simply by becoming a grammarian. The Vedas declare, Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.23, Yasya deve parabhaktir, yatha deve tatha guru, tashaite kathita hi artha, prakanshate mahatmana. Only unto one who has unflinching devotion to the Lord and to the spiritual master does transcendental knowledge become automatically revealed. Such relationship between the disciple and the spiritual master is eternal. One who is now the disciple is the next spiritual master. And one cannot be a bona fide and authorized spiritual master unless one has been strictly obedient to his spiritual master. Brahmaji, as a disciple of the Supreme Lord, received the real knowledge and imparted it to his dear disciple, Narada. And similarly, Narada, as spiritual master, handed over this knowledge to Vyas, so on. Therefore, the so-called formal spiritual master and disciple are not facsimiles of Brahma and Narada, or Narada and Vyas. The relationship between Brahma and Narada is reality, while the so-called formality is the relation between the cheater and the cheated. It is clearly mentioned herewith that Narada is not only well-behaved, meek, and obedient, but also self-controlled. One who is not self-controlled, specifically in sex life, can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. One must have disciplinary training in controlling speaking, anger, the tongue, the mind, the belly, and the genitals. One who has controlled the particular senses mentioned above is called a Goswami. Without becoming a Goswami, one can become neither a disciple nor a spiritual master. The so-called spiritual master without sense control is certainly a cheater. And the disciple of the disciple of such a so-called spiritual master is the cheated. One should not think of Brahmaji as a dead great-grandfather, as we have experience on this planet. He is the oldest great-grandfather, and he is still living. And Narada is also living. The age of the inhabitants of the Brahmalok planet is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. The inhabitants of this small planet, Earth, can hardly calculate even the duration of one day of Brahma. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtang Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapandantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Before beginning, I would like to ask permissions and blessings from all the devotees in attendance and throughout the universe. Please bless me to speak something in line with Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara. Hare Krishna. Verse one more time. The great sage Narada also inquired in detail from his father, Brahma, the great-grandfather of all the universe, after seeing him well satisfied. This verse, we're getting the secret to success. Everyone is interested in the secrets to success. So many books are written on the subject. Personality development, personal development, self-help, all of these types of things are very popular amongst the people in general. Everyone is seeking after some kind of happiness in this world, trying to find success and, for the most part, trying to lord it over the material nature. But what we see here is a different approach. And the approach is an approach of service and subordination. And we are getting very nicely described how we can make progress in spiritual life. As there's a old saying, kind of a mantra, was all paths lead to the same place, something like that. But actually, according to this verse and according to the Srimad Bhagavatam, not all paths lead to the same place. Actually, we need to take the path of Krishna consciousness under the direction and guidance of a guru. And we, in that sense, by doing that, we become a disciple. And as a disciple, our position is to give so that we can get. Mostly we're expecting what's in it for us. What can we get? What can I get? What, and if I do this for you, then I'll get something. But this type of motivation, although maybe it works well in the material world, is not the type of direction that we should be going after in the spiritual realm, according to this verse and according to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Ultimately, the spiritual knowledge comes from the guru. And what our goal is to become worthy disciples. And we get direction from Srila Prabhupada, so many books that he has written, specifically this wonderful transcendental Srimad Bhagavatam, which is like the Encyclopedia Britannica of spiritual knowledge. I don't think they have Encyclopedia Britannica anymore, but when I was growing up, they would, before the internet, I grew up actually before the internet, they had these big volumes of knowledge, so many things. And it's like you would, have these big encyclopedias and they would try to capture all the knowledge of, I'm sure that some of you remember these types of things. They had these encyclopedias where they would fill them with all the knowledge of the world. And then each year they would add a little something or take a little something away or something like that, because the knowledge somehow would change in the encyclopedia. Now we have the internet, which has the knowledge of everything. Not really, but we don't need encyclopedias so more. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is the encyclopedia, the everything that we need to become spiritually realized. So just this last weekend, I had the good fortune of going to the New York Rath Yatra. And on this point of gurus, there was multiple gurus there. Some of your who are in attendance, many of you have your gurus. Vaisheshika Prabhu, he was there. Radhanath Swami was there. These are Diksha gurus underneath the line of Srila Prabhupada. Also many Shiksha gurus, Prabhupada disciples. And it was interesting to see how the gurus and the advanced devotees of Srila Prabhupada, the Prabhupada disciples, how they interacted with each other and how they really had so much Shakti, and how they were able to interact with other up-and-coming devotees and transmit the mercy from Srila Prabhupada through themselves to the up-and-coming people, devotees who are trying to understand Krishna consciousness. And some realizations that I had about that as I was there, because I was there with Vishnu Gada Prabhu, who is a Srila Prabhupada disciple here in the Philadelphia congregation, who's been in the movement since 1971. So I went there with him, and then Vishnu Gada Prabhu and I were we stayed in Jersey City at another devotee's house, and then we went to the New York temple on Sunday, where there was a big festival with many Srila Prabhupada disciples there. And so what I was able to do is basically ride the coattails of Vishnu Gada Prabhu throughout the Rath Yatra, then the next day at the New York temple, where there was a big festival and many Prabhupada disciples. And what I realized is, like, I was in such a fortunate position to be able to associate with a spiritually advanced guru, in one sense, Shiksha guru. And by taking that position with Vishnu Gada Prabhu and being able to be with him, I was able to make my way into so many interesting places that otherwise I would have never been able to get to. So, like, the realization was that, wow, if I want to be the man, or if I want to be the one who people are following, then I have to try to force my way into these other situations. But actually, by being with someone who is great, by being the servant of someone who is great, we actually get the opportunity to get so much benefit and get connection to things that otherwise we would never get connection to. Like, I was able to go into so many conversations with all of these Prabhupada disciples and hear, hear all these great stories of the movement in the early 70s and throughout, the time when Prabhupada was here. And it was just like such an awesome experience, because I was able to just be there connected. So the point here is that if we try to be the one in the front, it's a very difficult position. But here, what we understand is that actually, if we can be the servant, then we can put ourselves in the position of getting the benefit of the master by being the servant of the master. And so we, and by doing that, we also get access to so many great things. And as it's also said in this verse, at some point, the disciple becomes the spiritual master, but not before that disciple is ready. And what does it take to have a disciple be ready? As it's again described in this purport, through self-control, through discipline, by being a Goswami. By being a Goswami, which is to control, being able to control the senses over a period of time. Because so we all have this experience of coming to Krishna consciousness, and we get inspired and enthusiastic about taking the vows of the 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds. But then over time, it becomes challenging. For some of us, myself, I'm sure some others have experienced that. Some maybe not so. But it becomes challenging to stay on the path, maybe when that inspiration or that enthusiasm starts to fall away. In which case, this faith and discipline and actual self-control, which requires some level of discipline, comes into place. Because when we can do that, then we can actually move in the direction of really being a disciple. And from that, we can get so much benefit in our life. So it's not as if we're doing it, although it is what we kind of have to become is we become selfless so that we can get the mercy of the guru. And by getting the mercy of the guru, we can actually make a connection and utilize this human form of life for what it is actually for, which is spiritual realization. The Chaitanya Charitamrita has a verse that goes, Brahmananda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Latabish. I'm sure many of you know this verse. According to their karma, all living entities are wandering throughout the entire universe. Some of them are being elevated to the upper planetary systems, and some are going down to the lower planetary systems. Out of many millions of wandering living entities, one who is very fortunate gets an opportunity to associate with a bona fide spiritual master by the grace of Krishna. By the mercy of both Krishna and the spiritual master, such a person receives the seed of the creeper of devotional service. Guru Krishna Prasad Pai Bhakti Latabish. And this is a powerful meditation for us to stay very grounded in, because it is repeated over and over and over again throughout Srila Prabhupada's purports, throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, so many places in the Bhagavad Gita and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that it is by pleasing the great souls, by pleasing the guru, whether that be a Diksha guru or also a Shiksha guru, that we make progress in spiritual life. It is not by, as is put it, by being a grammarian, by being someone who knows all of the verses, who can speak greatly, who can read all of the books. We all know this, many of us know the story of, I think it was in Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going into the temple. There's a Brahmin there, a illiterate Brahmin. He's there reading the Bhagavad Gita. He cannot read, but he's sitting there reading it. All of the other Brahmins are laughing at him, saying, oh, but his guru gave him the order. You read the Bhagavad Gita. And so he's sitting there reading, trying to read with his whole heart and soul. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sees him and says, this is real. And says, yes, what you are doing is correct. Why? Because he's taking the order of the guru and following it. Now, I'm preaching to the choir. We understand this and we recognize this, but at the same side, this is something that can get lost in our approach to Krishna consciousness, because it's not necessarily a natural. It's something that we have so many anartas in our hearts from Kali Yuga and the contamination that we have and the society that we are brought up in, that we are and we're so conditioned to this cheaters and the cheated mentality that we end up having at least myself, and we see this history in the ISKCON movement over the last 50 years, we have a very difficult time to like give ourselves over to another and to take our own best interest and put it in the hands of another person. And it's understandable, because in this world, we're always being taken advantage of. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur put it, this Kali Yuga society is the society of the cheaters and the cheated. And it's described here in this verse, the cheaters and the cheated. So we have this, like, what is it called? PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, when it comes to trusting others. Because so many times we put our trust in others and we've been duped, we've been cheated. So it requires this level of shraddha, or faith. And if we can somehow fan that spark and keep that spark alive, whatever has brought us to the devotional service, the Krishna consciousness movement, through over years and decades, which many of the devotees here and many devotees have been maintaining that bhakti lata bij over decades and decades. When we understand that, and when we keep the service to the guru as the main focus of how we make progress in spiritual life, this is, as described in this verse, the pathway to success. And another important component of this is patience. Another another common anartha of this modern age, of the people in this modern age, is impatience. Everyone wants it now. If it doesn't happen fast, moving on to the next thing. But as we see, what actually is required is ongoing, daily, monthly, weekly, yearly devotional service, Jai, which over those days and months and years and hours and decades, and 1 second. That's the prasadam cart. Those of us who know that, it's like Pavlov's dog. Everyone's mouth will start watering now. So over the years of and decades, we give ourselves over and clear the anartas in our hearts, decontaminate our hearts, and have the patience to recognize that we may not be where we want to be right now. We may not be able to call ourselves true disciples, even if we are disciples, technically on paper. But that doesn't mean that even if we aren't where we want to be now, we should be discouraged in the process or in our focus on the end goal. And we have a great guide. Great is an understatement. We have the greatest guide, and that is Srila Prabhupada, who was just with us on this planet not that long ago. He was sent from the spiritual world to give us Krishna consciousness, the whole world, so we can take shelter of that, of Srila Prabhupada, of course, but we're taking shelter of the message. We're taking shelter of the direction and the guidance. And in that, we can find some peace of mind. We can find some happiness in our everyday struggle for existence. Because without Krishna consciousness, it is a very sad situation to be in life. Because without Krishna consciousness, it is just a struggle for existence. And no matter how hard one tries in the material world, no matter what heights we rise to in the material world, we will only end up frustrated. And actually, once this knowledge becomes awakened and we can see the distinction between the struggle for existence and the transcendental nature of the soul and the actual purpose of life, then we can see how this is just wreaking havoc on all of the conditioned souls. The ignorance, the lack of knowledge, that's really the most dangerous thing in the whole world. In fact, there is one, I believe it's Perfection of Yoga, one of the smaller books, but it says that I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it says that ignorance is the most destructive force. Even we see, and we're so dull. We see, especially, I mean, of course, once before we come to Krishna consciousness, we're in the mode of passion and ignorance, completely blinded, trying the same thing over and over. I think it was Albert Einstein who said the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now, we try it in our own selves, but we see others doing the same thing over and over again. So many of us are seeking wealth. We're seeking prestige. We're seeking after something in this material world that will give us some kind of happiness. And if we think if we get it, that happiness will arise within our hearts and will be solidified in this happiness. But we see that those people that have what we want are still not happy. Yet we try to still go after it. This is the most foolishness of the living entity in the state of passion and ignorance. Trying the same thing over and over and over again, seeking a different result. Until we get the torchlight of knowledge, Om Jnana Timirhantasya, from where? From the spiritual master. And in that sense, the verse here that said, what does Krishna say to Arjuna in the verse that's referenced in this purport, 434 in the Bhagavad Gita? Just what? Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. And this is another distinction that is made in this purport, is that this is not a process. First sentence, the process of understanding spiritual or transcendental knowledge from the realized person is not exactly like asking an ordinary question from the schoolmaster. The schoolmasters in modern days are paid agents for giving some information, but the spiritual master is not a paid agent. This is not like what we're experiencing in school. They're just getting some paychecks, so they go in and they go through the motions of teaching some so-called knowledge or whatever it is that they teach in schools. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So it requires seeing the truth, tattva darshina. And what does it take to see the truth? To serve the guru. Fortunately, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, there are so many opportunities in the modern situation, time frame that we find ourselves right now, for us to link up, connect with, and serve those who have seen the truth, the self-realized souls. And by doing this, we can get this wonderful opportunity to also get the benefit of doing that, even materially benefited. Think of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada and all of those who have come after them. And what great lives they have been able to lead because of their connection with Srila Prabhupada. When I was in New York on Sunday at the New York Temple, there was many Prabhupada disciples, as I mentioned. And one of the disciples who was there was Shrutakirti Prabhu. And Shrutakirti was, many of you know who this devotee is. He was one of the servants, one of Srila Prabhupada's close servants. So he's got so much personal, great association with Srila Prabhupada. And he was so respected and revered, and so many devotees and people just wanted to talk to him, and he gave class, and he had so much wonderful stories to tell about his connection and being in association, close association with Srila Prabhupada and his life. And you could see that he was really, he was happy living this life of having been the servant of a great devotee. And so like that, we can get this same opportunity to serve, become a disciple. How do we become a disciple? Well, it's described here. One must have disciplinary training. That's another point of the Krishna consciousness movement, disciplinary training. No one wants disciplinary training. But this is what it says here is required. So as a society, as a movement, it is the duty, as it's described here, Krishna consciousness movement, to take the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, and the whole movement, the entire ISKCON society has one purpose, actually. And that's just that is to please Srila Prabhupada. And in doing that, all of the mercy will come. And as we see, although it's kind of like we see nowadays that so many interpretations of what Srila Prabhupada said. So we see so many disagreements about, oh, it should be that way, it should be this way, it should be that way. But so maybe there's like confusion around, well, how can we please Srila Prabhupada? Because it seems like he said this, it seems like he said that. But in one sense, it's also very simple. Not to simplify it or oversimplify it. Because from a management perspective, yes, it can become very complicated to try to deal with so many different types of people. And those who are in management positions in ISKCON or trying to push forward Krishna consciousness are the unsung heroes of this movement. And of course, it's a very thankless task. But for us, we if we can keep in our hearts that what this whole movement is designed to do is to please Srila Prabhupada, then it puts us in the position to actually get that mercy. So I'll end the class soon, but the one aspect here is another point that is important to touch on is that as we make progress in spiritual life, we find that we get many powers that we may have not otherwise gotten. We get empowered to do great things. So many devotees we see throughout history that have been empowered to do so many unbelievable things. Actually, they can't not even be understood by the materialists. They only can be written off or said that just minimized. For example, what Srila Prabhupada did when he came to the United States and what has now become from a 70-year-old man who took a steamship to the United States in the mid-60s with 40 rupees in his pocket, all alone. So Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee, but for those of us who are not pure devotees, myself certainly, we can get this, there's this empowerment that comes from being the disciple, from attempting to connect with Krishna. So we get this power. And one cautionary tale is that we can become puffed up with this newfound Shakti. When we forget that everything, every power, everything that is coming, that is good, and what is good, that is connected to Krishna. Everything that is, all of the powers, the Shakti that is coming as we progress down the path of Krishna consciousness, and we recognize these new powers coming in our life. When we forget, when the anartha creeps up, and we think that it is us, and if we forget that it is the guru, is the mercy of the guru. It is really the mercy of Krishna through the guru that is working through us, and it is not us. When we forget that, we begin to glide back down. In that regard, there's a very nice story, which many of you have heard, and I will share as I close this out. Again, become a mouse. There was a mouse, went to a yogi. He complained that there was a cat who was bothering him. The yogi said, well, what do you want? The mouse said, well, I want to become a cat. Then the cat won't bother me. So the yogi waved his hand and the mouse became a cat. Later, the cat, who was previously a mouse, went back to the yogi, and the yogi said, now what's the matter? You want something else? The cat said, You know what? Now a dog is bothering me. I want to become a dog. So the yogi said, all right, become a dog. So the cat became a dog. After a while, he came back to the yogi who said, do you want something? The dog said, yes, now a tiger is bothering me. I want to become a tiger. The yogi said, all right, become a tiger. When the dog became a tiger, he looked at the yogi with longing eyes. The yogi said, oh, you want to eat me? The tiger shook his head and said, yes. The yogi said, again, become a mouse. So, and the tiger immediately transformed back into the mouse. Srila Prabhupada told this story so we can recognize that everything we have, every bit of intelligence and power comes from the guru, the mercy. And if we turn that back on the guru and we try to take over the position, then again, we become a mouse. So Hare Krishna, thank you very much for joining the class. If anyone would like to share any thoughts or corrections or questions, let's take a little time and do that now. The moral of the story is follow the guru and everything will be okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very nice class, very inspiring. And I realized something. I used to think about the meaning of surrendering. And then when you said the surrendering is the surrendering to the messages and instructions of the Guru and Krishna, and it became a little clear to me. Surrendering. Yeah. Thank you.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yes, and the instructions are very clear. Okay. Thank you all for coming this morning. Until next time. Krishna willing. Vanchakalpa Tarupyascha.
Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavim.
Hare Krishna, Dhruvan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We have 6:30. We have program at the temple tonight.
Yes, we have a devotee by the name of Mukunda Datta Prabhu. He's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He lives in Vrindavan Dham. Very sweet Brahmin devotee. Sings nice kirtan. And very wonderful speaker on Krishna Katha. He'll be here tonight at 6:30. I believe it's the first time he's been to Philadelphia. So I think you'll all enjoy getting his association. So if you're around, please come tonight at 6:30. I believe also that we also have the Prabhupada Lilamrita for those unable to make it to the temple. I believe that on our Zoom, the same Zoom we have here, that is at 7 o'clock p.m.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hope to see you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.